Other interesting cultural news, you have Disney claiming they will quietly quit the culture war. Okay. Now, this is after they've lost about $2 billion on entertainment between movies and little TV shows, or I guess more appropriately said these days, Disney Plus shows. $2 billion lost about. One would think they would hire better writers. But no, of course not. They just leaned into it more and more, not only injecting morally vacuous content into it, things that, of course, are also not appropriate for children, but they also increased the cost ridiculously for all those Marvel films, which, again, will be appropriately displaced by AI, I believe, since every Marvel film, and pretty much every Disney film, nothing more than rudimentary copy-paste, or a fun exercise at home with a little home scanner. It's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And every time you actually take a again, I apologize about the focus. There we go. Every time you do a copy of a copy, you actually degrade the image. A perfect metaphor for the Disney Corporation these days. As every remake flops ridiculously, they actually take the original film, remove the morals and values, toss them away, and insert insufferability. It's almost a specialty, some might say, with the new Snow White film that's doing a debut having no 7 dwarfs. There's going to be seven different people, but they're stealing the jobs from the dwarf community in that regard. Going to have no prince, apparently. And I believe this is a wicked step queen around the movie. She's actually more attractive than the princess, so that plot point is out as well. She's not jealous anymore. And the actress hates the original art. She hates the original film. Rachel Zegler does perhaps, let me know in the comments, should we do an insufferable person of the year? So very similar to this business blunder section we have at the end of the show. Perhaps we could nominate folks for insufferable person of the year and send them a trophy in the mail, perhaps? It's not a terrible idea, perhaps. Let me know in the comments if you would appreciate that idea. But getting back to Disney, and this is thanks to a content article over at Bound Into Comics. And it looks like they had a couple experiences taking quotes with Bob Iger, who's the current CEO. And he claims his, quote, key goal is to quiet the noise because culture wars are not healthy for Disney's businesses, unquote. It took interesting. So maybe, then they'll most certainly stop. I mean, Iger also when asked for comment, additionally, Bob Iger said, quote, well, so far what we've said publicly is that we are concerned that he has decided to reinstate against the company for a position that the company took on pending legislation to the state. And frankly, the company was within its right, and even though I'm not sure it handled very well, it is within the right to speak up on an issue constitutionally protected right of free speech, and to retaliate against the company in a way that would be harmful to the business was not something that we could sit back and tolerate. And so we have filed a lawsuit to protect our First Amendment there and protect our business, frankly, unquote. And this was when he was answering comment of why the already hell did he get involved in Florida politics when they were basically sitting on easy street. Very little to no regulation. They have very nice tax benefits. It was a huge part of the Florida economy. And then they decided to take a stand and decide we want kids to be taught. We want kids to learn about sexual themes when they're in their, in their early teens or preteens actually. When people pejoratively referred to Ron DeSantis' legislation as "don't say gay," when in the beginning I believe it was kindergarten through I believe 6th grade they couldn't bring up any sexual topics. Which I can't help but think there's something wrong with the teacher if that infuriates them. Like some of these teachers, it's their hobby to, many would say indoctrinate. One or two people might say educate. I would say indoctrinate kids into sexual ideologies. If that really upsets a teacher, do you think they're really concerning about the child's development in mathematics or science or history? I would argue no, because if you look at all the test scores in the United States public school systems, those scores are down year over year. And yet teachers' unions say they deserve more money. Another topic for another time, perhaps. So Bob Iger's saying the things like, oh yeah, we kind of had to. It was our First Amendment. Well, most businesses are not commenting on those things. You chose to comment and then lean into it with a lawsuit. Now, it looks like he continued to say, the other issues that you referenced, the last thing I want for the company is for the company to be drawn into any culture wars. We've operated for almost 100 years as a company making product that we could actually are proud of in terms of the impact to the world. I joke every once in a while since we're the manufacturer of fun. unquote. They're certainly the manufacturer of something. Don't get me wrong. He continued to say, quote, I don't really want to engage in the specifics except to say it's not our goal to be involved in the culture war, unquote. Our goal, and he continues, quote, our goal is to continue to tell wonderful stories that have positive impact on the world. You know, we're a preeminent entertainer of the world. We're proud of our track record here. The notion that Disney is in any way sexualized children is quite frankly preposterous and inaccurate, unquote. I couldn't help but nearly burst into laughing with all his, well, I was about to say mentally vacuous statements, since you've seen the evidence throughout the years. You've seen the movies where they're injecting those themes into the movies. And yet he's denying it here. I can't help but think the odds that they'll actually stop, not zero, but perhaps 0.1%. I say this because you've had videos leak from Disney with many of the writers proudly talking about their gay agenda, which Alex Jones, I was going to say, certainly I do not encourage this to be a drinking game, but Alex Jones was right yet again. They were calling it a conspiracy, but now they're proudly putting it into the films and all that. They also were actually mandating employees bonuses and their actions based on their thoughts and ideals outside the office. And of course, those thoughts and ideals had to align with Disney the business and those many would call woke ideologies in order to get promotions and actually go anywhere in the company. Now, it didn't happen overnight in terms of hiring the people who believe in that, building out the culture. Sometimes building out a culture takes decades at some of these companies. So to say this is going to stop, I don't believe that for a New York minute. And remember, wind back the clock, about a year ago, Bob Iger was a successful CEO of Disney for over a decade. He trained his protege, Bob Chapek. Bob Iger then left the company. Bob Chapek took the reins as a CEO. Presumably, no, he did. He absolutely ran the company into the ground, although perhaps a better metaphor for a Disney film would be running it, Disney, perhaps having a Disney film, what's a good metaphor for Walt Disney? Having Mickey Mouse, he got caught in the glue trap. Well, that's pretty apt, I'll take that. So, Bob Chapek got Disney trapped on the glue trap. He raised prices of tickets to the parks, decreased the incentives for the extra people who hold memberships to the parks, increased the content that is controversial, thereby increasing their audience from everyone to a smaller audience inherently, and their stock crashed. Disney Plus, crashing. They still haven't made a profit on Disney Plus, their streaming platform. They claim they're getting close, and they might, but they've also cut more content than any other streaming platform as well, coming in at right under 40% of their content. That's a lot of cuts. Now, again, when Bob Iger came back, he said, hey, we're going to get out of politics. We're done with that. But this past year, they've had films that were inherently more politically based. They injected sexual themes into children's films and ideals, which, again, when you're doing that, you are appealing to an audience. It is just a much, much more narrower audience. Whereas prior, when I was a kid with Disney, it was thought to be very inclusive. Everyone could be at Disney. Now Disney, if you go to the parks and spend thousands of dollars to go there, they have full-grown men wearing dresses servicing little kids. But yet another action that is dividing your audience. Many people aren't going to be comfortable with those ideals. And to me, anecdotally speaking, in terms of the dress code at Disney, there's no dress code now. You can do whatever you want. Whereas back in the day, I would argue to this day, every man should suit up. But in all seriousness, for the parks, specifically, they weren't even allowed to have facial hair. Walt Disney was very articulate and very strict on having everyone look as professional as possible. Clean shaven, bright and early every day. There are very high standards. Now it appears the standards have dropped so low, the bar is actually, not just as the bar lowered, it's actually below ground, some might say. And everything else is also compounded to make the stock drop precipitously. They're making way too many Star Wars films. People are bored of that by now. Same with the Marvel films. Also doesn't help their case that they're all about the same. Hero comes in, big explosions, cliche joke that a robot could write, and then no one really dies. I just described 99% of Marvel films. I just saved you a lot of time. You no longer need to watch them anymore. So, and the cost of those films just keep going up and up and up. They even ruined Indiana Jones by injecting politics into it. So they have this huge staff. All these writers have this ideology. Are they going to stop tomorrow? Because Bob Iger again claims, oh yeah, we're going to stop doing that. We're going to get out of the culture wars. No. It's not where the culture is as a company. It's not where the incentive structure is for the company. Of course they're not going to stop tomorrow. I think he's just trying to buy time to appease shareholders. They're desperately trying to get the company to make some money. He might even have to sell ABC and some of their traditional TV networks. Let me know in the comments, do you believe him this time? Because he said this before. This isn't breaking news. When he first joined, he was going to say, oh yeah, we're going to get out of it. And they did, and they doubled down. And they are losing money. A company that used to be considered a blue chip stock, this used to be considered a sure bet in the past. When you talk to investors and the historical trends of Disney, now, not so much. So I can't help but think, sure, they're saying this, but do I actually think they're going to change the culture of the company and change the writing style to actually go for the wide audience of a majority of people again? I can't help but think that little Mickey Mouse, he's stuck in the glue trap pretty good. And it's almost as if he's stuck and he's trying to get out of the glue trap, and he actually just stepped on a mouse trap and the bar just came down. And that bar coming down, I believe, will be Bob Iger presumably being perhaps ousted by the board of directors in the next 18 months. Again, they hired him to turn the company around. Look at the stock. Look at the financials. It's not going well. He had a long tenure before, and he did some great things before, great acquisitions, but these days, a little mouse, little Mickey on the glue trap, I would say his outlook, unfortunately, is not so good. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, I know it's ambitious, but we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September. So if you could click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, friendly reminder, we're giving away a free flamethrower with every September purchase at toppingtechnologies.com. See the website for additional details. Also, don't forget to take the time to like and comment. The feedback is greatly appreciated, especially if it's constructive. And again, I'm trying to find a better software to do picture-in-picture for production quality. If you can do that, suggestions are greatly appreciated. Also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.